All right, we are live. And yesterday I found about this. I didn't find about them. I knew about them. NFX, the venture firm that's all about network effects. But I've been meaning to check them out for a long time. So let's see. Let's dive into some of their writings, what they talk about. Venture capital firm focused on investing in pre-seed and seed stage startups based in San Francisco. Additional office in Palo Alto, Israel. Herzliya, founded in 2015 by entrepreneurs including James Courier, Gigi, Levi Weiss, and Pete Flint, emphasizes backing exceptional founders who are building market transforming companies, often with a lens on network effects, where the value of a product or service increases as more people uses it. Typically invest in technology driven sectors such as enterprise applications, consumer technology, fintech, biotech, gaming, Web3, and marketplaces. The portfolio includes notable companies like Lyft, Poshmark, DoorDash, with over 279 investments as of early 2025, including 13 unicorns and numerous exits. They've raised significant funds, including a 150 million fund in 2017 and 450 million fund 3 in 2021, dedicated to early stage ventures. This was very interesting. I was watching this podcast, My First Million, and over there, I think Sean and James, they had a conversation, and James basically told Sean that think about every decision in your life from the perspective of network effects. Like even if you are trying to move to a city, think about you are choosing to be in that network. There are a lot of people who during COVID chose to go out of San Francisco to save taxes, and he was like, that is the worst decision. You might be saving 10%, like you might be saving a lot on your taxes, but you are also saying no to 13x or 10x increase in your salary, in your income. So that was very interesting, because what happens in San Francisco is that strong network and serendipitous connections, and that's what matters. Backing exceptional founders who are building market transforming companies, often with a lens on network effects, where the value of a product or service increases as more people use it. Beyond capital, NFX provides for founders with software tools like Signal, a fundraising network, access to a network of over 500 founders called the NFX Guild, and expertise in growth strategies. They were adapted to the AI age, leveraging technology to streamline sourcing and evaluation processes while planning to expand their investment team in 25. Mission to transform how innovators are funded. Interesting. At NFX, we see what many later stage investors do not, how a company is born. We ask the world's top founders and CEOs, what do great where do great ideas really come from? 9 ideation frameworks of top founders: mediocre idea, not sure, fertile soil. Okay, let's go to the Twitter account first. 2021. Yeah, I believe that's James. Yes, that's all I know. Suivre. NFX is a leading seed stage VC firm based in San Francisco and Israel. That's interesting. Why did they choose Israel? They are choosing to be in the network. That's interesting. Physical, protocol, personal, utility, personal, market network, hub and spoke, marketplace, platform, asym, asym, asymptotic marketplace, tribal, bandwagon. General partner, full-time founder, product designer, investor. Which fan companies produce the best founders and which one doesn't? Can you guess? The response from our network was incredible. Our video essay dives deeper. We're breaking down the past, present, and future of consumer with more content, more clarity, and more actionable takeaways.
For 11 years. consumer software startups peaked in 2013 with companies like LinkedIn and Facebook and Uber and Snap. And then in 2014, crickets. Nothing. There's been almost nothing built in consumer for 11 years. Let's talk through why that is. And let's talk through how AI changes the game, because things have really changed in the last year. So consumer was over for about 11 years. Building anything in consumer software was almost impossible. The window had closed, 90% of the tech window had closed. So in 1993, consumers didn't use software. But in 1994, we got the browser, and that's when we kicked off the consumer era that we all have lived through and have really enjoyed, whether it be eBay and Amazon and Facebook and Google and Uber and all these great companies that now help us run our lives. That was all between 94 and 2013. And then by 2013, we got almost nothing for the next 11 years. Consumer was over. So what happened? So Facebook and LinkedIn were dominating their channels. You had to spend to get distribution. The needs of consumers were largely met. The interface of the laptop or the desktop with a mouse hadn't changed in 30 years. The mobile phone stopped changing after about 2008. I mean, the iPhone 3 was pretty much like the iPhone 18. Nothing has really changed. So there was no opportunity, no technology window disruption that would allow for a breakout new consumer company during 2014, 2023. So as an investor, meeting startup founders, trying to start a consumer company, I'd look at it, will it actually work? And time again, I said, this is going to work. So consumer software went through the same technology window cycle that every technology goes through. At the beginning, the Hopkins was playing around the browser or with eBay, but then there's task one. Like when Mark Andreessen becomes a billionaire at age 24, everybody wants to know, how did he get that? So I started.
Whoa. Is it Mark Andreessen? Whoa. Okay. Then when they start companies and the stock market has made them instantaires. Who are they? Instantaires. Instant millionaires. Instantaires. Who are they? How do they live? And what do they mean for America's future?
So I started looking at what that means. But then knowledge diffusion take place. And then when people learn about what this internet thing is, and what consumer internet is, how people are using it on their laptops and on their desktops, everyone jumps in, you get competition. And once you get this competition, then the next phase is that the incumbents are on. Because they have network effects, because the management teams are better, because they get a bigger brain. They get defensibilities in place, they become the incumbents for this technology window, in this case consumer software, and then they shut it. It just becomes nearly impossible. 90% of the window is gone. There's some things you have to be sure. So in 2014 we got Discord, and we got TikTok, and we got Spark, and we got ChatGPT. And then we got a few mobile game companies, a few consumer fintech companies, but literally somewhere between 10 and 15 unicorns were birthed during an 11-year period. Where in the prior 20 years, each year they birthed perhaps 15 or 20 unicorns. So in 2025, the consumer window is finally open because they plain simple. This new consumer layer is not just a revival of the old, it's actually a revolution. There's whole new ways of thinking about how to interact with consumers, how they interact with each other, how they interact with agents is now on. It's a whole new way of thinking. So we're not just going to dredge out what we did 20 years ago, it's working.
Need new mental models for the consumer space. It's no longer about copying past successes, but about leveraging AI to create entirely new categories and consumer behaviors.
New mental models, new mindsets based on new technology. That's why these are called technology windows, right? New examples for behavior are the fact that AI can gather a lot of information, summarize it, and present to them, so the consumer doesn't have to do that work. Another behavior is that consumers can interact with voice. Another behavior is that consumers can interact with agents or with bots that didn't exist before. And we're just beginning to see how that's going to what those interfaces are, what those experiences are. That's like something. It's late in the game. The incumbents are already in place. Everyone can access the same AI you do. So you're going to have to be excellent in order to make waves of consumer. It's a little bit like us. You were there in the 50s and 60s, you did okay, and you still did really well. By the time the 90s and 2000s roll around, you had to be better than Tom Cruise. It just doesn't happen. The environment had already closed off. The same thing is true today. Just AI, which will never. You still have to be excellent at everything you do in consumer in order to make any waves. So people get. So here's some of the things. Number one, you got to be good at it. You got to know what's going on with AI. You got to very dynamic, and you evolve it constantly. You're constantly checking out new AI models, constantly checking out new interfaces, using AI as you move into that space. You have to be flexible. You don't have the answer. You have a process for finding the answer for this market to different clients. Second, you got to be world class in design, in marketing, in position, in growth. Okay, you've got to be world class. Third thing, you got to study history. A lot of things to try before.
Study the history of other startups in your space.
Psychological and institutional reasons why it happened. You need to know what those are so you can angle around. Fourth thing, speed. Okay, it's always important in software startups. It's critical in consumer. As soon as you get any traction, you'll have 6 venture-backed competitors, and the incumbents will want to take. Speed is essential. Design products, start quickly, and accelerate from there. The fifth thing is you got to master growth. You got to be good at testing. You got to be good at it. Have to be excellent growth. It needs to be in your DNA, changing how you grow every week. You're going to record. It's not something you fix when you grow. It's something you do all the time. Number 6, you got to focus on network effect. If you don't have network effect, an incumbent will come take your market and see what you're doing, or another startup might be better funded, or have another venture come in and take your market. You've got to build network effects from the very beginning, or you're going to get displaced. And then 7, you've got to be in person, in the same office, so that you can move quickly. You're going to make 4 critical decisions between breakfast and lunch. And if you're not in person, looking at each other, whiteboarding, agreeing with each other, doing it together, eating testing together, going through all of your failures, getting back on your feet, you will not be fast enough, you will not be precise enough, you will not be good enough. And I know you don't hear that. You feel like you better talent, and all these excuses for why you just stay on relax. You can't. You got to be in the war room, moving at speed together in the same room. And that's how we see consumer businesses innovating how they win. We've got plenty of founders who come to us and say, "James, you kept telling me this for years, and now I finally moved everybody together. It's night and day. I can't believe it. I hope all my competitors stay alone." And absolutely, you don't want to be roadkill because you weren't willing to play your game, which is move your ass together, work in the same room. Look, winning today in consumer software is like winning only the 0.1% league. In fact, it's a little bit similar because we have an app. There's a sorority. You have tens of millions of users. Everyone's going to end up knowing your name. So you actually become part of the framework of how people move their lives. You become important. And it's only the top 1% of people who can manage that. And that's where it is today. 94 was much easier. 94, it's 30 years ago, guys. That social network movie that you watched, that was published in 2010. And it was a story from 2004. That was 20 years ago. The world doesn't work that way. The consumer takes a particular type of magic, a particular type of attention to detail, iterating on A/B testing, iterating on projects, iterating on messaging, product features. That magic, that skill, that art, if you will, is very rare among people. And that's what's required to succeed. My partners and I built 10 companies that got to be worth over $10 billion cumulatively, almost all in consumer. And we know what excellence requires to make these consumer things work. There are some formulas, but in a brand new world of AI, they've got to be adapted for what's going on now. But bringing yourself up to that level and giving yourself a chance to consumer is real work, and you need to be sure that you're up for it.
Interesting. So this was the latest content by them, and it's pretty interesting. Okay, it's pretty good. Closing season 3 with a bang. Talk to marketplace legend Pete Flint, trulyalastminute.com, now NFX. Pete Flint, investor 2x unicorn, founder, operator, Trulia founder, founding team at lastminute.com. Last minute deals. Okay. Turkey, Venice, Italy, Mallorca, Italia region. We just found that Italia is pretty big. Algarve, Portugal, Tenerife, Canary Islands, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Sunseeker, beach, best beach resorts in Albania. What it really takes to make AI agents work. Businesses want AI agents, but many need help onboarding them into the workforce. A key to unlocking mass adoption, building three critical layers of the AI agent stack. Anna Pinole breaks it down. Advocada. Whoa. Advocada. I thought that was avocado. There are now 32,000 active VCs up from just 150 30 years ago. More competition, more capital, better terms for founders. In our latest NFX video SF with James, we break down venture capital 3.0 where the industry is headed and what it's meant for you.
With venture capital, how you fundraise and how you scale your business. We don't normally do VC analysis at NFX, but we think it's very important for founders to know what waters they're swimming in. Because venture capital has entered a definitive third stage of its
Cottage industry. ARCD, Fairchild, Kleiner, NIA, TA, Excel, Summit, Battery. Institutionalization, high status, high impact, globalization. Touches every industry. Mega fund incumbents. Blend with PE, AI and ML.
evolution, and it's going to really affect how you interact with venture capital, how you fundraise, and how you scale your business. So let's talk. The third phase is driven by the increasing scale of venture capital, how many venture capitalists there are, and also, of course, by AI, and how AI is going to transform this industry. VC is growing and it's going to continue to grow, which is really good news for founders, but it will have implications for you. It will benefit you by giving you even more funding options. It's never been a better time to raise capital for your ideas. The first phase of venture capital was really between 1948 and 1994. It was really a cottage industry. There was less than 150 people doing the activity. When I started as an associate battery manager in 1994 in Boston, there was about 40 active venture firms, and a total of about 150 general partners. So 150 people getting a salary for deploying capital into private technology in the United States. That was it. It was a cottage industry. The investors were cautious, capital was scarce, people were very low key, they didn't want to be in the press, and founders would typically bootstrap their business to $1, $3, $8 million before ever raising venture capital. Venture capitalists could buy 30, 50, 60% of the company for $1, $2, $3 million. It was a completely different age. There wasn't a ton of 60% of the
Andreessen Horowitz, Sandal Road, Sequoia Capital, Stanford University.
It was a completely different age. There wasn't a ton of status to it. Very few people knew the names of the folks, but you have a Don Valentine, Sequoia, you have a Draper investing in things like Apple or Cisco. And VC 1.0 wasn't an industry, it was just a boutique club. It was a very small piece of the overall financial picture, and no one really talked about it. The second phase of venture capital really started with the advent of the browser in 1994. We had dial-up modems, we had desktops, had a few laptops, but suddenly we had this browser, which allowed you to innovate and invent new things for both consumers and for businesses that then lasted for at least the next 30 years. And it was on the top of that, on the back of that technological window, that the venture capital industry itself even grew from 150 people to 32,000. And that's the industry you're all familiar with now. There's 32,000 people who are now getting some sort of compensation for deploying capital to private tech. How do we know that? Well, we launched signal.nfx.com in 2018 as the place for profiles for all VCs. Now, that's an incredibly dramatic rise from 150 to 32,000, but we think as if it's permanent, but it's not. It wasn't always there, and it won't always be functioning this way.
Software, if you can sell at volume, has extremely favorable economics. So we didn't have to build any factories. We were cash positive. We didn't have a year where we lost money.
During Venture Capital 2.0, some of the bigger names like Sequoia and Andreessen and Benchmark and whatnot became household names. And then the founders also became household names, whether Bezos from us or Zuckerberg. This industry, propelled by software, became not only a place for building great products and great businesses, but it was incredible riches and a lot of steps, a lot of media attention. Bothered by all this. Yeah. It became talk in town. It became talk of the world. The word startup was invented, which they hadn't had before. Startup industrial complex came to be with all the media and the movies and the newsletters and the accelerators and the classes at Harvard Business School. The founder journey became the new Navy SEAL struggle. All this change has taken place over the last 30 years on the backs of software economic and trade investment. Venture Capital 2.0 turned into the American dream. But we're really at the phase of VC 3.0 because of AI. AI touches all industries. And VC, with 32,000 people, is now touching all industries. All enterprises, whether it's robotics, or defense, or climate, or bio. We're applying the VC model and the VC thinking about how to scale and grow businesses to everything in the world now. And that wasn't the case 20 years ago. So VC is no longer just a cottage industry or a rising industry, but it's incredibly fast now. It's very precise. And at this moment, AI arrives and adds to the speed, adds to the depth, adds to the ability of these VC firms to look at more deals in more depth, faster, and more effectively. Venture capital is becoming the ubiquitous way of building and scaling enterprises worldwide. We've identified at least 13 reasons why venture capital is going to continue to scale from 32,000 to 16 beyond in terms of people doing this job. The first thing is that the industry itself, the investment is still inefficient compared to other financial asset classes, so LPs will continue to get good returns so they'll continue to invest. The second thing is that the asset class is still small. In a whole year we raised $200 billion, that's the size of one big hedge fund. It's still a tiny little industry. Could easily double, no one knows. Number three, more VCs are going to be needed because VC now applies to all industries. Number four is just international growth. It's been a big thing in the US, growing thing in Europe, but now it's going to be in Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. There's going to be more venture capital all over the world to satisfy the needs for economies to grow. Number five, LPs will continue to invest in venture capital because the LPs each have different strategies and different VCs have strategy and they match up. So The seventh reason is LPs will continue to invest is because they don't have a lot of great alternatives. The returns in other asset classes have been coming down for the last 20 years as those asset classes get more and more efficient. And so the alpha available shrinks because VC is still inefficient. There's more alpha, there's more chance to beat the S&P 500. The eighth reason VC will continue to grow is because there's going to be new types of LPs. More people are learning about the VC asset class and are going to want to participate. And that's going to drive the asset class from 200 billion to 400 billion, which is like having a hoagie for the rest of the financial industry. More VCs are going to come into the industry because people like the job. You know, it's intellectually stimulating. You get to be the decider. It's more fun to be on the sell side of finance. You've got the optimism that your next bet is going to be the big one. So people like the job, and so it's going to continue to attract 99 percentile talent into the job. Number 11, AI is going to make it easier for many people pretty good at the venture capital job, digging through data, analyzing, and ranking companies for them to invest in. Number 12, there's just low barriers to entry. I tell people all the time, just start being a VC if you want to be a VC. Get a profile on Signal and just start making investments. There's not a lot of barrier to it. Number 13, VCs can be VCs part-time. So you might have a full-time job as a hedge fund manager or as a head of business development in a corporation or doing something else, but you can spend half your time, a third of your time investing capital on behalf of yourself or on behalf of the organization you work for. So you're actually going to see VCs popping up in lots of different organizations. And the last reason is just that special communities will flourish. So if I'm in Detroit, I want more economic growth. So I, as a panel, will set up some venture capitalists to look at business plans and make investments. If I'm a university, I will set up business plan competitions. You're seeing more and more of this job of being a VC being necessary for every special community who wants to show that they care about economic development and growth. So software has been and will continue to be very special. As venture capital 3.0, we spread out into all the industries with the venture capital model, the startup model. We're going to start noticing how different businesses interact differently with the model. And you need to think as a founder, where am I? What industry am I in? And therefore, what is my best way of connecting with these new VCs who are now in this defensive, this primary? And it's going to be a new coming together, and each industry is going to have to require you as a founder and investors to learn new methods that increase your probability of success. Okay, so if you look at the different attributes of what makes a business good and flourish, you can see here why software was so special. The venture capital model really depends on having one company out of 35 that gives 100x. In all these industries, it's likely that the venture capital firm will be able to beat the S&P 500. But it does mean that the VCs are going to have to really work hard to make that happen. They're going to have to figure out formulas that work for them. So if you are a VC, prepare your mind, buckle up. Let's talk quickly about something called private equity. Private equity venture capital is actually very similar, but they're different in important ways that affect you, the founder. As we move into this incumbency phase of venture capitalism, this 3.0, you will notice something, that the VCs are going to tend to start to get more sharp elbow. And this is a characteristic of more private equity firms. Private equity invests in established businesses whose business model is well understood, whose pricing is well understood, whose mechanism is well understood, and then they crank down on those mechanisms. They load it up with debt, fire more people, they optimize the workflow. The people are very fastidious, they're very precise, and they sort of take their piece of the pie. And that's how PE makes money. It's a very different mindset from a venture capitalist mindset, but very similar from a limited partners perspective, where LPs invest both of them hoping to get outside returns to beat the S&P 500 pretty significant. There's going to be a culture clash between these two groups. People who are going after the same opportunities, applying AI to business, all my businesses is one business. So just be aware, you might start feeling that over the next few years, over the next 10 years. The AI is going to change everything about the VC. So what does the VC do? They source deals, they analyze deals, they decide on what to invest in, and then win those deals, and then they support. So those are the four phases of venture capital ticket. The AI will be able to spot things earlier now. And VCs will be able to proactively reach out to you before you even want to raise venture capital. Or maybe you've got a business and it just sold 3 customers in the last week. That might show up somewhere digitally. The AI will find it, alert the VC, again, inbound process sourcing. Or maybe you've got a business and it just sold 3 customers in the last week. That might show up somewhere digitally. The AI will find it, alert the VC, again, inbound process sourcing is going to become very different. And your experience of all this inbound from the VCs will go from a trickle a few years ago to a deluge over the next 10 years. That'll be a future for you. The second thing for VCs, they're going to use AI to analyze. We still might only make 20 or 30 investments a year, but we're going to look at more and more companies because the AI is going to help us analyze more companies in more depth. Most VCs don't want to talk about the third phase, just decide. But increasingly, you've got to expect that VCs are using algorithms and other signals to give them scores, indications of whether they should make the investment or not. And over the next 10, 15, 20 years, that will increase as part of the decision-making process, and people will sit around the table and say, hey, what does the algorithm say? And the last phase of it is supporting. And this is a really good thing for founders because now the AI can be more attentive to everything you're doing. It can help you get connected to people that you might need at the moment. It'll help educate the investor as to what their needs might be. It might prep them for board meetings. All sorts of things are possible with AI. Getting VCs to support you more if you want. And if you don't need it or want it, then they can also stand down on that. But that seems like a very positive area for how AI is going to impact VC and how it's going to help you. So as the VC industry gets bigger and accelerates, it's going to change how it feels to operate alongside it as a founder. But the next 15 years are going to be amazing for startup development and for acceleration growth. And it's your chance to go out and get it. It's never been a better time for you to start coming.
Okay. Let's go to the website and let's see if we can find some good writings over here. See what others do not. What it really takes to make AI agents work. The next 10 years will be about AI agent economy. 3.0, 5 series of agent. Consumer is back. Stackable business models in the age of AI. The intangible game, how we see you. An ode to launch. I want to know specifically network effects. Yeah, that's what we are here for. Map your life and network effects. That's good. Your life is driven by network effects. Whoa. Okay. Revealing the unseen forces that guide your life. What city you live in, who you date or marry, which job you choose, what clothes you wear. What city you live in, who you date or marry, which job you choose, what clothes you wear. We all think we make these choices ourselves. It certainly feels like we are in full control, but it turns out that our choices both in our startups and our lives are more constrained than we think. The unseen hand in them all is the networks that surround us and the powerful math they exert on us. Working with network effects in our 100+ companies make it impossible not to notice how the same mechanisms and math that create near destiny for companies also create near destiny for us as individuals. It's mind blowing once you see it. These constraints are highly determinative of how your life will turn out, guiding us inexorably down one path or another in ways that are quite that are both quite predictable. Yet these forces are typically unnoticed. This article outlines how we see network effects impacting nearly every aspect of our life. With that lens, it lays out a perspective on how to make the 7 most important decisions of your life. It will hopefully help you make decisions that are more true to the kind of life you want to lead. Feb 2020. Wow. The Unseen Hand. Adam Smith published The Wealth of Nations in 1776. In it, he envisioned markets with thousands of individuals pursuing their own independent self interest as creating an invisible hand that unintentionally promoted the good of society. This free market model allowed him to point out the math and mechanisms behind the emergence of large scale social order. Here we want to do the reverse, to use a network model to characterize the large scale human social orders and explain how they impact each of us with an often unseen hand. In short, the networks of human connections in your life create a force that guides you down a path not always fully of your intention, through the mechanism of hundreds of small interactions. Further, this network force compounds over time. The longer your relationships, cliques, and communities persist, the more they shape your destiny. Sociologists regard the evolution of our lives as resulting from a combination of our own choices and preference and the force of our surrounding social network structure. Observing our own lives and watching as hundreds of founders move through their own journeys, we would go even further in the belief that it's network forces that influence the majority of how our lives turn out, and 90% of those network forces are established in just 7 crossroads or pivotal life events. Given the power network forces on your life, they should be the primary consideration when making decisions at these crossroads. Although it may feel like a complex decision in the moment, they become simplified when seen primarily through the lens of joining and forming new networks and changing the network topology of your life. The world seems chaotic, but it's not. Underlying all this apparent complexity is some wonderfully simple math. Follow the math to your destination. Understanding the primacy of networks will give you a superpower to see what others do not and navigate life's big decisions more effectively. Underlying it all is math. Always back to the math. Seeing the math at work in your life, math underlies elements of the social sphere in ways we don't always see, in spooky ways. Here are a few examples of how math drives the large and small scale social orders you experience every day. After that, we'll get to how the network forces should guide your decision making in the 7 crossroads of your life. Zipf's law in you. Did you know the frequency of the words you use are determined by an underlying mathematical pattern? What's stranger is that same mathematical pattern seems to determine the sizes of cities within a country, income distribution of people within an economy, income distribution among companies, how much traffic goes to different websites on the internet, how often last names are used in a society, and the number of phone calls people receive, the number of people who die in wars. This mathematical pattern is a power law known as Zipf's law. It was first noticed as a principle of language. About 100 years ago, physicists and linguists discovered that the second most commonly used word in English is used one half as much as the most used word. The third most used word is used 1/3 as much as the most used word, so for down all the words in a given language. This law turns out to hold not just in languages but in many other cases. The world looks complex or chaotic on the surface, particularly in social matters and perhaps your own life, but underlying what we see are simple rules of math. Underlying mechanism is not yet agreed, but the main hypothesis is that it's an outgrowth of the principle of least effort. Systems that survive and operate at steady state optimize for efficiency. When they do, things tend to look like Zipf distribution. An even stranger implication of Zipf's law is that unconscious network forces will act on anyone or any company that gets to be an outlier in one or more of these distributions, bringing you back in line or bringing another person or company back in line to make room for your new numbers. Will happen without any conscious or intentional force at play. This is a bit spooky. It means that the number of inhabitants of NYC constrains and influences the number of inhabitants of LA, Seattle, Chattanooga, and all American cities in some unseen way because they are all part of the network of US cities. Even though we are each making what feel like independent decisions about where to live, it seems that we're part of this network unconsciously influencing people to keep American cities on the ZIF distribution line. I'm one of those people being pushed around, so are you. It also implies that my income is somehow influenced by other incomes that surround me, as my income fits into the ZIF law curve, and my country's GDP is influenced by other countries' GDP. Your body and cities have predictable mathematical patterns. Systemic efficiency also drives other mathematical laws that govern how our lives look. Another example is the 3/4 scaling law that shows up everywhere in the world, as pointed out by Jeffrey West in 2017 book Scale. The cells and energy systems of living things scale up in predictable terms. A mammal that is 200% the size of another will only consume 150% of the energy. That's because our cells and capillaries have evolved to be the most efficient fractal network transport system for conveying energy and nutrients to a 3D body. This biological fractal network is very similar to the fractal network of a city that has evolved to provide energy and transportation to keep the city alive. The empirically measured numbers for cities are 17/20 scaling, still pretty remarkable energy gains for the city based on its network effects, and still consistent across nearly all cities. It's remarkable to think that city planners could actively try to violate the 70/20 scaling rule for cities, and the network would actively work against them in unseen ways to pull the city back to 70/20. How do nodes on a human network work? Nodes, people in network exchange these things consciously and unconsciously. They exchange more when friction is lower and our benefit is higher. Ideas, capital, connections, jobs, status, aspirations, language, request, standards, expectations, affirmation, belonging, real estate. When the friction is low due to physical proximity, interaction frequency, tribal trust, similarity, the nodes also exchange more when the benefit is high due to resource gain, status gain, tribal trust gain. Exchange a host of things, sometimes consciously if I pay you from my bank account, sometimes unconsciously, like when you overhear me at dinner telling someone about how I coach founders during walks and you decide to try it with your employees. The things they exchange are, well, nearly everything. The most important ones for our discussions here are ideas, capital, connections, jobs, status, aspiration, language, request, standards, expectations, affirmation, criticism, belonging, and physical space. In networks, the rich nodes get richer. Most things that happen in society are multi-turn and repetitive. These are called preferential attachment processes, which happen when something such as money, status, fame, punishment is distributed based on how much is already possessed. Most social processes are preferential attachment. For example, if two founders each tweet out the same great idea at the same time, the one with more status will be given credit for the idea. What's fascinating is that this is because of math. Nodes that are ahead get picked more often by the other nodes because they are ahead, and this offer the nodes choosing them less friction and more benefit. When this gets repeated many times, it systematically directs more resources to the nodes that already have relatively more. This pattern has been so prevalent for so long and has been so annoying to the majority of people who by definition are not in the lead, and it's mentioned in one form or another at least 5 times in the Bible, most famously in Matthew. For to everyone who has will more be given. For to everyone who has will more be given. Now called Matthew effect. For to everyone who has will more be given. The math behind why dinner parties behave the way they do. If you want to have one conversation at a dinner table, 6 people is about the right number, maybe 8 max. While that seems like a social decision you made yourself, the reasons behind it are mathematical. That number is similar for all of us because it's based on how many possible two-way conversations can exist between people. The formula turns out this, where n is the number of people. If you have a group of 6 people, that's 15 potential two-way conversations, which means that to focus on one conversation, you have to suppress 14 others. That's possible without being too rude, but if you just add one more person to the group, the formula becomes 21. That's an additional 6 conversations to suppress. That stretches our social skills to control. Hmm. The larger point, n into n minus 1 divided by 2. The larger point here is that when groups get larger, it's an exponential change, not a linear one. And that affects social experience you have, how you interact, and ultimately how you feel. Whether it's a dinner party the size of your extended family, school, college, workplace, or a city with networks, the math behind them that puts impactful forces on how we all behave. Let me send this to one of my friends. Okay. Yeah, it's good. It's very interesting to just keep sending these. This is very interesting to a conversation I was having last night where we were exactly 6 people. And I thought we had a good conversation because we kind of separated between like two, two, two. So yeah, we separated into all the nodes separated into 3 different groups of 2 people. We rarely had like one big conversation going on, but that's interesting. When groups get larger, it's an exponential change, not a linear one, and that affects social experience you have, how you interact, and ultimately how you feel. Whether it's a dinner party the size of extended family, school, college, workplace, or a city with networks, the math behind them puts impactful forces on how we all behave, how networks form. In theory, the people who inhabit each layer of your life's network map could be anyone. All humanity is, after all, connected. As Stanley Milgram famously showed as far back as 1967, there are a maximum of 6 degrees of separation between you and any other person in the US. With the advent of the internet and global social networks like Facebook, that number may be even lower, as low as 3.5 degrees, according to a study conducted by Facebook in 2016. Relationships don't form at random. 5 conditions contribute to the depth and speed at which they form. A context for frequent, repeated interaction with a new group of people. A context for frequent, repeated interaction with a new group of people. A new school, job, church, club, dorm, living situation. A high degree of overlap between relationships in the new group. A transition period where people are open to changing or evolving their identity. A high density of people in geographic and network proximity. Go through something hard and perhaps fear inducing together. Trauma bonding. Go through something hard and perhaps fear inducing together. So you can see why high school, college, and your first job are such important life stages. Why high school, college, and your first job are such important life stages. All 5 of these conditions are present. What does your network want from you? You are not just the recipient of value from your network. The people and nodes in your network want and expect an exchange from you too. They want you to validate them and support them. You are in a dialogue with the network's force. As Obi-Wan says about the force in the original Star Wars movie, Kenobi, a Jedi can feel the force flowing through him. A Jedi can feel the force flowing through him. Luke Skywalker, you mean it controls your actions? Kenobi, partially, but it also obeys your commands. force flowing through him. Network force is similar. You don't always see it, but it is exerting itself on you. It wants something from you. Your network force proactively guides you down a path. So be careful with subnetworks and people you add into your network. When you start to see the dialogue between you and your network, the push pull, you see it everywhere. The chaos of the world diminishes a bit and becomes more understandable and predictable. And you understand more why things are the way they are and why they stay that way. Hopefully, it will also give you insights as to where you can push to change things that should be changed. Not just about you, but about your company, your city, and your world. Your life's crossroads. Let's look with a new network force eyes at the crossroads each of us face. This list of crossroads is intuitive, but few of us explicitly understand the math that guides our choices and the gravitational force our networks exert on our lives. And further, like asteroids colliding in space to form larger asteroids, at each crossroads we pick up greater network mass, increasing our network gravity and exponentially heightening the energy cost of changing course. Exponentially heightening the energy cost of changing course. Like asteroids colliding in space to form larger asteroids. At each crossroads, we pick up greater network mass, increasing the network gravity and exponentially heightening the energy cost of changing course. The conclusion is that the compounding nonlinear math of networks means that they should be primary consideration in our big life decisions. The network topology of your life. There are three levels of networks you're part of: physical network, the people network, digital people network. Physical network. These are the cities you live in, streets you drive on, buildings you work in, the electrical grid you use, food sources, heating, cooling, transportation. Networks, the ability to pay or to be paid, call or be called, text or be texted. The people network. People you are connected to and what you receive from them: family, friends, co workers, chosen languages, tribal systems and totems, assumption, beliefs. Digital people network. This is new over the last 25 years. You can see and communicate with thousands of people and be made in their network, receiving ideas, images, thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, dates, jobs. We have a sense this should change the world, and it is, but it will play out over the next 50 years. Within the people network, you are a member of many networks: your family, your high school classmates, college alumni, company alumni, the people from an activity you do like a soccer team or volunteering, the people who work in your building, the people who live on your street, the people at the gym you go to. The intensity of each of the links between you and the other nodes in your networks, it turns out, will follow Dunbar's law, which appears to be based on the fundamental structure of your brain. We each tend to have 5 people who are like family, 15 intimates, 15 intimates, 50 acquaintances, and 150 total familiars that we can interact with on a regular basis. Beyond these approximate limits, humans don't do so well. Motivation, social brain theory, maximum knowable personal identities. Dunbar's law, group size n is equal to phi r cube, r relationship, strength, n relationship. N is equal to phi, close friends, kin, 15 to 20, supper, family, friends plus intimate, 45 to 50, clan, acquaintance, 150, tribe, familiars, kin, supper, family, clan, tribe, weaker to stronger relationships, stronger to less intimacy, weaker ties, more social investment in relationships. You are a node in each of these networks to which you belong. The other nodes people give you your ideas, your words and phrases, your assumptions, your desires, your fears and your beliefs. They give you your belonging, your affection, your shame, your fear and your hopes. To make an analogy, imagine that the things that these nodes all give you show up on your life dashboard as you navigate life. They appear with a lot of numbers, probabilities, rewards, cost, friction. You make your decisions reading this dashboard and what the network presents to you there. You have agency and free will in making your decisions. You look at the math of each decision and make the best decision you can at every point. The mathematically obvious path will feel like the right decision, but note that what even shows up on your life dashboard is put there by your network. And the math associated with each option. The rewards and frictions and probabilities and are determined by your unique network. And your network is the result of the network decisions you made during the few crossroads moments in your life. What shows up on your life dashboard is put there by your network. And your network is the result of just a few crossroads moment decisions in your life. What that means is that the little decisions you make daily, the ones you fret over, are orders of magnitude less important than the crossroad decisions you make. This is true because those decisions have been placed in front of you by your network and are mostly a function of your network, and they don't typically bridge you into whole new networks and new ideas and options. What family you're born into. You don't get to choose this one. For better or worse, your family is the fundamental layer of your network topology. Seeing your family through the lens of network forces model can reveal the hidden depth of that influence. Network clusters influence us in proportion to how frequently we interact with them, how early we adopt them, how strong and reciprocal our ties are with the other members, how much they are reinforced by overlapping shared connections, and how long we expect them to last. In all of these measures, few of our other networks in life can rival a family. Since you usually live in the same house with your family for a large part of your life, geographical proximity makes frequency of interaction extremely high and friction to interact low. Your individual relationship with one family member usually is strong ties reinforced by all the other family members you share in common. We expect family relationship to persist throughout our entire lives, an expectation formalized in most human cultures as a deeply embedded social norm. There's a long shadow of the future with our family members. We know they will always be there, so we are willing to invest and sacrifice for our family relationships more than for non family. Family ties have higher bandwidth than others because we see labels like mother or son as identity defining. Family relationships straddle the line between who you know and who you are. Future relationships outside the family network, friends, dates, will be impacted and reinforced by your family. The closer you get to someone, the more they interact with your family, and the more likely it becomes that they develop their own ties with your family members. All of the powerful factors above are superimposed by and reinforced with our biological drive to connect with others who share our genes. Now that we can see how families are uniquely influential relative to other networks, it's clearer why we so often adopt our cosmological, religious views, linguistic dialect, political leanings, dietary preferences, and worldviews from them, despite such things not being genetically heritable. You go through life thinking such things are innately you, but you didn't adopt your identity in a vacuum. Had you been raised by a different family, you would likely be a very different you. Your religion, linguistics, political orientation, favorite foods, worldview would probably be very different despite such things not being genetically heritable. Our family network impacts what networks we are exposed to and which ones we are constrained from. Family nodes have preferences and push links to other networks on us in the form of introductions to schools, places to live, jobs, and spouses. There are also prohibitions on fraternizing with the wrong nodes in certain networks. Your family is a low friction, high impact network. Because of that underlying math, when making life decisions, most people will choose the options that most align with their core family network. Be aware of this if you want to be more conscious in directing where your life path will lead. Your family network is the one you don't get to choose, and in that sense, it's not fair, but it's not destiny. Think of it as another network force, albeit a very powerful one, that puts data on your dashboard. Crossroad 2, high school network. High school networks are especially important because they are influential when we are forming our identities and worldviews as young adults. High school networks are also correlated with academic achievement, work habits, and even college admission, defining access to future networks and building a vibrant life of your choosing. Like family, where you go to high school isn't usually a choice, but if you do have this option still ahead of you, or if you have children and can choose for them, don't underestimate the importance. High schools are typically the first peer networks we join that are large enough to have a diverse array of subgroups, better known as high school cliques. As such, they present us with our first significant network based decision: Who to associate with in high school. The importance of high schoolers' place on popularity, the status in the social hierarchy of the peers shows that we intuitively understand the importance of networks even at an early age. In seeking status or popularity, we are, in part, looking to maximize our options in terms of which cliques we can elect to join or form. For most teenagers, that optionality matters deeply. How does status work? Why does status gives you options? Because status lights up the network. It's a pure short or preferential attachment we mentioned earlier. Sure, nodes on the network with money attract more money. Nodes with more access attract more access. Nodes with more attention attract more attention. But nodes with status attract all of the above. Nodes of all types want to associate with high status nodes because it will improve their own status. Winning status becomes the singular focus of life for many teens, and not a few adults persist in that goal. Adult parents of a high school teen may see it as melodramatic or irrational how much their kids care about the status, reputation, friends at that stage of life, especially compared with more important things like academic accomplishment. But from the vantage point of a teenager, social obsession is quite rational. Teens intuitively understand that their high school destiny depends on their network of friends. And though it's easy to dismiss teenage behavior as irrational and hormonally driven, there are serious consequences to the networks we join early in life. For example, academic achievement in high school has been shown to be directly influenced by friends. High achieving students strive for high achieving friends, low achievers strive for low achieving friends. And the differences in achievement between the high and low achievers will be exacerbated by the friends they make. According to one 2011 Harvard study, all kinds of traits from body weight to happiness are heavily influenced by network clusters. Throughout your life, your clique helps define you. The same study also found that the presence of friends in class has a positive and significant effect on test scores. Moreover, as your first peer based network you form after you have come of age, your high school friends have a particular influence on your lifelong identity, from your taste in music to your work ethic, your fashion sense, and your life aspirations, which is only rivaled by family and in some cases even surpasses it. It's not just during high school that high school networks matter. Those who go to college and build a career in the same cosmopolitan area as their high school are likely to retain some parts of their teenage cliques throughout their lifetime, usually forming a core part of the network. All this network force taken into account which high school you go to matters a lot. Imagine the impact of moving a kid from, for instance, Taiwan or Spain to the US or vice versa for high school. How much of a difference would that make to the trajectory of a person? The networks presented to them, the ideas, the sports, the foods, the languages, the friends. Imagine moving from Arkansas to, for instance, Philippe's Exeter Academy, New Hampshire for high school. Intuitively, we know this will make a difference, but we see the mechanics of what difference of that difference more clearly when we see it through the lens of network forces. And navigating the question of which high school to attend, or if you don't have a choice, who to make friends with as a high school student, or which kinds of people to encourage your kids to befriend if you're a parent, all the good luck with getting them to listen. Ask yourself the following question: how big is a high school? Bigger the high school, bigger the alumni network, which may influence your ability to choose future networks like college, spouse, and jobs. How diverse is the school so you can find nodes and sub networks that fit you best? With more options, there's a higher probability you can find a high achieving sub network in an area you can be ambitious and high achieving. How strong is the affinity of school graduates? Higher affinity indicates stronger network links between nodes in the network, that the network is more valuable to the graduates. How much do they brag that they went to that high school? How often do they come back for reunions? How passionate are they about the brand of the school? Do they use it as a strong identity peg, or are they indifferent? Those would indicate stronger network links between nodes in the network. How important is academic success to high school students in this high school? The more that popularity status positively correlates with academic success, the more that short-term social incentives will be aligned with achievements that will serve you or your kids in the long term. Parents and ambitious teens often mistake high school for a competition to get into a good college, either through academic achievement or sports. By focusing on the sound and fury of competing for grades and spots on the varsity team, they miss the higher importance of the network dynamics at stake. Putting yourself in a position to form a large number of strong relationships with the right network nodes can make all the difference, not to get ahead, but to create a vibrant, amazing life of your choosing. College. We got first job. We got marriage, choosing a life partner. Where you live, city, people, job. And finally, we got reassessments. College. You should choose your college based on the network of students and the geographic network they inhabit more than course of study or sports team. If you choose the right people to be around in college, they will open up ideas, relationships, jobs, aspirations, attitudes, and resources that fit with you, and a virtuous cycle will be set in motion. The network will ask you to be your best self and live your best life like a trainer at the gym. In this way, your college network will have an exponential impact on your life. College networks have many characteristics that make them powerful. Geographic density creates frequent interaction between the nodes, giving network bonds a chance to form and strengthen. There's a long duration of network formation. 4 years is a long time. A lot happens in 4 years. A closed, selective network. This is powerful for three reasons. Your reputation matters. People are more likely to have heard about you by a third party and treat you differently according to your reputation. If you meet another student, the chances of them knowing someone you know is much higher than someone you meet outside of the closed network. There is a high degree of network overlap between you and other students. And as network theory predicts, shared connections between two people vastly heighten the chances of them forming a strong bond. The likelihood of repeat interaction between students is very high. Like with family, these networks cross from who you know to who you are. Identity formation takes place at this age and are thus likely to last longer. When you choose a college, you are also choosing a geography. People tend to end up working and living in the same geographical proximity as their college, keeping them close to their college friends. People tend to end up working in the same industries as the people in their college network. People tend to end up working in the same industries as the people in their college network. It's considered a social norm that you should build and value your network in college so others are more receptive to building new and strong bonds. Given your biological age, it's a good time to look for a partner. The network upshot of this is that many people will find their spouse at college, or at least find someone who they think likely to be their spouse in the future, which impacts big life decisions such as where to live after college. As we'll see, this is actually a huge decision. Letting your dating life dictate where you live isn't usually a wise choice. College teaches you the idea that you will know these people the rest of your life. So, like family, there is a powerful shadow of the future that makes the bonds stronger and more numerous. All of the above elements reinforce each other. To see what this means in practice, consider the following scenario. As a freshman, you meet someone in class. Let's call that person Sally. You and Sally have some things in common and you get along fine. If you were asked to rate your affinity for Sally, it would be 6 out of 10. Since you share a class together, you will see each other maybe twice a week for at least 6 months. You will interact regularly and frequently, and even after the semester, there's a high likelihood that you will see Sally around campus. Share friends with her who might invite you both to the same parties or get togethers or participate in the same extracurricular activities. All of this is a result of you being members of the same close network and sharing the same geographical and institutional circumstances. Now, suppose that the same day when you first meet Sally, after class, you go to a party off campus where you meet Bob. Bob doesn't go to your school, doesn't have any shared connections with you, and doesn't live near you, but he does have a lot in common with you, and you spend all night at the party hanging out because you share so many interests and have so much chemistry. If you were asked to rate your affinity with Bob, it would be 10 on 10. 4 years later, when you graduate, which friendship is more likely to have survived? How much does the math of network formation matter compared to your own preferences and agency? Mutual affinity isn't the only thing that matters in choosing friends. It's not even the biggest factor. Network force swamps other factors. Taking into account the model for relationship development, It doesn't just include mutual affinity, instead, it looks more like this. Wow. Likelihood of forming a relationship is mutual affinity times frequency of interaction times duration of interaction times geographical proximity times network proximity times number of shared connections. Bob might be a 10 in that first factor, but in all the others, he's a 1. Sally, on the other hand, may be a 6 in terms of personal affinity, but she's a 10 in all other ways, each of which serves as a multiplier on the likelihood of you interacting and developing a lasting relationship with her. Another way of looking at it is the friction of hanging out with Sally is much lower than hanging out with Bob. It takes 10x less effort to hang out with Sally, so over time, the math of inhabiting a shared network, the network gravity, makes it 100 times more likely to become lasting friends with her than with Bob. This is a rough illustration of the mathematical power of networks in shaping behavior. As we see, networks impose real constraints on how you make decisions, not only in who you are likely to end up befriending, but the career opportunities, dating choices, beliefs, information that you will end up sticking with. Network proximity makes some options more appealing than they would be in a vacuum, while network distance can impose a high friction on other options like being friends with Bob or choosing to adopt a belief system, a fashion sense, or industry job too different from those of the other people in your proximal network. So, if you're choosing between colleges or know someone who is, consider the following questions. Where do most of the alumni of this college end up living? When you choose a college, you're also choosing a regional network. If you go to a school in California, your friends and job offers will end up being mostly in that region. I don't recruit at my alma mater, Princeton anymore because it's so low probability to pull a Princeton grad out of the NYC, DC, Boston orbit. I tried for 4 years, and each of the people I was recruiting did the math on their own life dashboards, all the numbers put there by the networks, felt the network gravity, and each made the rational decision to stay on the East Coast. One candidate stayed in NYC to move into an apartment with their college friends and work at Goldman Sachs, who recruited heavily on campus, 1 hour from their office in Manhattan. Low friction due to geographic network. Another moved back to Boston to be near to their girlfriend who was finishing up at Brown and their parents in the suburbs. They each really wanted to join a startup, but the network gravity and network math were too much. Now think about how the math continues to cascade through the network. Princeton hopes that I continue to be an active recruiting node on the network, providing the students with great employment options, but my cost reward math doesn't work. The denominator is 0, so Princeton lost a recruited node in the network for now. Further, now those student nodes back on campus don't hear from me. I and people like me don't add our numbers to the live dashboard saying work for a startup in SF. So the math for other ideas like Goldman Sachs and McKinsey gets stronger over the years. The strong get stronger. Again, preferential attachment in the network. Students look at the network math on the live dashboards and they choose the mathematically correct choice. What kind of career or industry do alumni of this college typically work in? Here's an example of how this works. My 23-year-old nephew went to Trinity College in Connecticut. Most of the students from that college end up working in finance in NYC or Boston. Guess what my nephew now does? He works in finance in Boston. He followed the least resistance path, leading him to the highest paying, highest status outcome similar to his network. Is his choice of job about his own unique abilities and interests? No. It's the math of networks. He made the correct choice based on the options presented on his live dashboard by his networks. You relate to the other students naturally. Will they relate to you? Do the students represent the type of aspirations, lifestyle, and interests you want for yourself? There's no point in joining a network where you won't actually bond with the other nodes, no matter how prestigious that network is. How big is the college? The bigger the college, the bigger the alumni network. The bigger the alumni network, the more weak ties you have, which are great for career, marriage, and a host of other life attributes. Harvard Business School has figured this out and has classes of 900 compared to Stanford and MIT Sloan of 400. The bigger the college, the bigger the alumni network. The bigger the alumni network, the more weak ties you have, which are great for career, marriage, and a host of other life attributes. Harvard Business School has figured this out and has classes of 900 compared to Stanford and MIT Sloan of 400? How strong is the affinity between graduates? Like with high school, how much do alumni brag they went to that college? How much do they come back for reunions? How passionate are they about the brand of the school? Do they use it as a strong identity marker, or as are they indifferent? Is it clear what it says about the graduates that they went to that college? A clear, strong brand lights up other networks because external nodes know what to expect from you if you are a member. I suspect this will be a controversial. You should probably de emphasize questions like, where does the college rank in US News and World Report college prestige list that dates back to 1981? Are the classes amazing? Is there a sports team I'm keen to play on? Is there a particular professor I want to work with, or a particular major I want to pursue? Only 27% of college grads end up with a job closely related to their major. College is possibly best seen as a place for network formation and creating the network topology you want. The network you join will lead you to a geography, a type of work, certain ideas about life, and a group of dating marriage options that will all have a big influence on your life. All that network force will be pushing on you to then take the mathematically obvious path from there, one which will feel like the right decision. First job. The professional relationships you form during your first job are the seed of your professional network, which influences the arc of your career. From how you think about your work to how you are known to the geography where you have advantaged job access for a long time. In working life, you see your coworkers every day for the of the week for 8 or more hours per day. The frequency of interaction with coworkers at this stage of life may be even higher than what you have with your family. Prevailing wisdom says you should pick your first job based on the highest income, or the one that you are most passionate about, or the skills you will learn, or where the day to day will be the most energizing for you. All of this is flat wrong. In your first job, go work with people whose career path you want to emulate. Optimize for network. The early professional relationships you form will have a bigger influence on your skill set, your lifetime earning potential, and the mastery of your craft than the particulars of your job description, the income, the company perks, or the brand name on your resume. In almost every field, from theoretical physics to growth marketing, top performers were mentored, influenced by, or otherwise connected to other top performers. There are a couple of reasons for this. First, as we saw in the high school section, high achievement is communicable. Communicable. Surround yourselves with high achievers and probability is on your side. You will become like them. Second, innovation is contagious. If your first job is at a place that's a breeding ground of innovation, the chances are a lot higher that you will come across some really good ideas, especially if you want to start a company one day. The PayPal mafia was no coincidence. Network clusters are capable of producing multiple future billionaires. There is no upper price in terms of effort, difference in income, or even cost of living that can even close to compare to the upside of being part of a network of high achievers in your first or second or third job. So, when making a decision about where you want to work, instead of asking, will this give me the work I want to do daily? Is this the best offer I got in terms of income? Does this company look good on my resume? Does this company let me take as much vacation as I want? Have free catered lunches in a fancy office. Do yourself a favor and ignore all of it. Focus on these questions instead. Is this job in the right city? The city I want to live in long term? Will I like and respect my coworkers? Will they like and respect me? Do I want to be like my bosses someday? Do my coworkers' career aspirations match mine? Am I going to be working with the best? Is there a strong culture and camaraderie? Will I have opportunities to prove myself to others at my company, to build my network bonds? Are employees proud of their company and their brand? Do they enthusiastically recruit? Do they seek each other out when outside of work? This indicates strong network bonds are forming. Are there politics in office that could threaten the building of strong network bonds? Lastly, because top performers tend to congregate in rising companies. If it's a startup, ask if it has a strong potential defensibility against competitors, especially network effects, and whether it has 9 habits of world class startups. Marriage. Choosing a life partner. This is so interesting. So interesting. Marriage. or choosing a life partner is one of the most important decisions you make in life. It could be the source of your greatest joy and or your greatest suffering at a very personal level. In terms of the network model, it's powerful because you're choosing someone else's full network to add to yours. This person will also share the very center of your network hierarchy with you. In many cases, this person will produce your children with you. Not only will parenthood be a focus of a lot of your life's energies, but in addition, your children's full networks will be added to yours for the rest of your life. Children are shaped by how you nurture them as parents, and as we have seen earlier in the discussion of family, they're shaped by the networks brought to them by their parents. Your children are brought into and partially inherit the network of both parents. For 60% of people, how you meet their significant other is determined mostly by who you know and who you get introduced to. Although that's changing with the digital people network, layer beginning to break down geographic networks and other closed networks. 2017, 39% of all US marriages originated by meeting online. It is one of the most profound changes in life in the US and the best example of what we have been hoping the internet might do for a long time, moving from unchosen network forces constraining options to a global digital network empowering your own preferences and agency. I ran the largest self assessment testing and matchmaking company in the world. We have 150 million users. We had 150 million users and tens of personality tests written by my staff of 5 PhDs to help people connect better. We also ran a matchmaking site with 30 million users that took advantage of those tests to match people. What my team told me at the time was that the most successful marriages were ones where the two people were the most similar and two, they had shared network connections. What this means is that when you're dating someone, you are not just dating them, you're dating their networks, their friends, family, and colleagues, and vice versa. Compatibility between two people in terms of their individual characteristics is sometimes much less important than the compatibility between their networks. This is one possible reason why there is surprisingly low divorce rate amongst arranged matches made solely on the basis of compatibility between kin networks. Although online dating is gaining ground, meeting through friends is still the most common way to meet someone. Further, what the stats don't yet show is how many of the 39% who met online had strong affinity networks already in place before meeting online, but just needed to shortcut the longer in person process with the tech layer to find each other. So, how do you find a spouse? This is where Mark famous work on the strength of weak ties becomes relevant. The stronger the tie between two individuals, the larger the proportion of individuals to whom they will both be tied. The stronger the tie between two individuals, the larger the proportion of individuals to whom they both will be tied. Given this, everyone in your inner circle probably already knows each other. The closest friendships you have, because of the structure of social network clusters, will have close to 100% degree of network overlap with you. So what this means is that your closest friends are usually poor nodes in your network to pursue romantic interest. There are two possibilities if you go this route. Your closest friends won't be able to introduce you to anyone new. Your close friends introduce you to a close friend of theirs that you didn't previously know. You end up dating, and the high percentage of cases where things don't work out, the blowback from the ruined relationship wreaks havoc in your network cluster, forcing your friends to choose. That's not to say that it's impossible for people to become friends and then later become romantically involved, but for the purposes of meeting someone new, friends of the inner circle of your network map are not the place to start. This is where your acquaintance, the weak ties, and the outer layer of your network map become vital. As we know from the work of Duncan Watts and Stephen Strogatz, acquaintances serve as vital bridges between tightly knit network clusters. For people looking to be exposed to new dating prospects, job leads, ideas, beliefs, or lifestyle that differ from what they are used to, there's no better way to do it than through an acquaintance. Smart questions to ask yourself when you're single and looking to meet someone. Which acquaintance is most likely to know a lot of people that you are compatible with? Not all people have equally large networks, and some people you know may be hubs that have a large number of connections. If you can find people like this, they are usually quite helpful in meeting new people. Hubs frequently have weak ties to a lot of different cliques, groups, and subnetworks. They're usually happy to make introductions. Do you get along with their friends? Do your friends get along with them? If you're serious about that relationship, consider whether you'll be willing to bring those people into your life. If so, it's a lot more likely that your relationship will last in the long haul. Do you get along with their family? The importance of in laws isn't to be underestimated. It's easy to dismiss this as a culture that preaches that true love is all you need, but network theory tells us differently. Your in laws are the core network of the person you will be closest with in life. What may seem like minor issues at first can grow into powerful problems over the long course of a lifetime. Are you in the same geographic network? When a couple is geographically challenged, it puts a real strain on the relationship. Could there be blowback if it doesn't work out? Everyone knows why it's a bad idea to date a coworker or someone else who you might see on a regular basis if you break up. Network forces are why. The same applies if you share a lot of mutual friends, especially if you ever get divorced. You put your friends in a position where they have to choose, and you risk losing some of the relationships you have built over a lifetime. Don't underestimate this risk. Where you live. Where to live powerfully impacts the relationship and direction of your life in ways you may not even realize. When coming out of college, this is even more important to your life than your choice of job. As mentioned previously, physical proximity is predictive of network formation. Cities, from a network perspective, are like scaled up colleges. Network density, frequency, similarity, and status accumulation all drive urban network formation. Cities do a great job of helping us form our networks because they are networks themselves, both physical and social. Where you live largely determines who you know. Who you know largely determines the richness of your life and your access to wealth and information. Your network is a form of wealth. It brings you friends, career opportunities, or a spouse. Committing to a geography and developing a network increases your access to all the experiences and resources you might want. As the great Sar Gur, partner at CRV, an investor in DoorDash, ClassPass, Patreon, Bird, and many other well known companies, said to me recently, staying in the SF Bay Area after business school was the most impactful decision I've ever made. Everything else was noise. It's certainly the most common life advice I give to people. Pick your city first. Everything flows from that. Your job, spouse, friends, income, and other opportunities flow from that core choice. The reason is network forces. It's important to know that your choice of city may be greatly influenced by the network force from the earlier networks you have accumulated. Take note of that and steel yourself to have the courage to make what sociologists call a major move if you decide that move makes sense. Making a clean break to move to the place that would facilitate your best life is hard. Network forces keep you on your path. The network wants something from you, your boyfriend, a parent, high school friends, college friends, your weekend sports team, your roommate, your comfortable job. This is true for those of us lucky enough to have a lot of resources, and equally true for those with far fewer resources. In this article, Malcolm Gladwell reported on research done by sociologist Corina on people at the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum who were forced to undertake a major move out of New Orleans by Hurricane Katrina to growing cities like Houston. The standard of living ended up rising significantly just as a consequence of the move, even though they were forced to do it by disastrous circumstance. It turned out to be a positive move, but they would never have undertaken it if they hadn't been forced to by a natural disaster. It gave them a chance to rethink what they do, but more importantly, it gave them a new network geographic context, new network forces, new resources, ideas, jobs, and commonly accepted standards. It could be that this dependence on location based networks is changing thanks to the internet and telecommunication in general, since it's now easier to maintain and form networks in spite of geographical distance. But we are just 25 years into the digital world, and that process will take 50 to 75 more years to play out. In the startup industry, digital tools like Signal, the company Brief, open up access to knowledge and communication formerly only available to people living in Silicon Valley for many years. Some people are able to use the internet to find, build, and maintain human networks, usually around a niche or interest like gaming, cars, or fashion. For most, The internet simply reinforces or superimposes upon the network they build in real life. For everyone who doesn't do most of their networking online, physical location matters. The network math of cities underlies their attractiveness and helps explain why the planet is rapidly urbanizing. In short, because of a city's network properties, as it gets bigger, it gives its citizens 15% more of what they want in terms of income, ideas, speed, and stimulation, and it costs 15% less to give it to them in the form of roads, electricity, water, gas lines, gas station, and safety services. The 30% gap is significant and is driven by a city's network effects. The higher rate of social interactions in a city has more important consequences for ongoing network topology. Larger cities mean more access to network clusters, leading to a greater diversity of talent, ideas, and backgrounds versus smaller cities. It also means meeting new people will be easier, but forging strong bonds could possibly be harder. It also means meeting new people will be easier, but forging a strong bonds could possibly be harder. Your networks are a form of wealth. With all this in mind, when deciding where to live, here are some of the questions. Are the people in the city like me? Each city has a vibe that may or may not fit with you. Each city calls ambitious people to improve in some area. NYC calls you to earn more money. Seattle and Portland call you to recreate more. DC calls you to be more connected. SF calls you to create more, invent more. It's the garage where the crazy uncle is inventing crazy inventions. If you can find a city that drives you in the way you want to be driven, then you are in luck and you should settle down and build your network and your life with your people. If one city doesn't call to you, find a subnetwork of people that call to you in a city you don't mind. How long can you see yourself staying there? Networks you build when living somewhere atrophy when you move somewhere else. Your networks are a form of wealth, and every time you move, you are resetting your bank account. How important is your career to you? Because GDP scales non linearly with population size in cities, your career earnings will grow faster in a city than elsewhere. More importantly, the opportunity to build out your professional network and meet top talent in your industry will be higher in big cities, in bigger cities. How much do you enjoy a fast pace of life? In a big city, everything moves faster, people walk faster, opportunities arise more frequently, you meet new people and encounter new ideas more often. It's all an inevitable consequence of greater network size and density. How much do you enjoy or value meeting new people? If you are looking to build out the middle and outer layers of your network hierarchy, cities are a great place to do it. Are the core parts of your network topology filled in? Do you have close relationships that you're happy with and can rely on? If not, a small city will be a better place for you than a big one. Reassessment. Wow. At any point, you can choose to reassess the course you're on. The network gravity has been building up since your birth and gets stronger over time. Each network adding and integrating with the others, changing the math on your dashboard until it's near destiny. But you can decide to ignore the network math and forcibly make a change. This actually gets easier for older people when you're done with their shoals, when they have raised their kids, built their careers, earned some money. That's why you see midlife crisis. This actually gets easier for older people who are done with their shoulds, when they have raised their kids, built their careers, earned some money. That's why you see midlife crisis. The network force has been guiding someone for their whole lives, and then it stops exerting so much pressure, and the person can consider their own innate interest and agency. The most lasting and effective way to change your life is to change who you're surrounded by. Since networks so powerfully shape who you are and what we do, the best way to change ourselves is to change our networks. This article is beautiful. It's a very important read. The most lasting and effective way to change your life is to change who you're surrounded by. Since networks so powerfully shape who you are and what we do, the best way to change ourselves is to change our networks. This is a big limitation at the way we look at self-development and self-transformation. This is a big limitation in the way we look at self development and self transformation. We think we can just roll out of bed one day, make a few New Year's resolution and become a new person, but this approach ignores the bigger part in the equation of who you are and what defines your life, the network force. This isn't to absolve a self responsibility for our actions and to shift the blame to others. Rather, it's to underline the fact that we are powerfully constrained by a network context. So, the smartest use of energy for those of us looking to make a change can often be to carefully reassess the networks we are part of and find ways to join new ones that are better suited to the life path we want to be on. On the flip side, if life is going well and you are happy, understand how important networks are. Double down on your relationships, cherish the people in your life, and be aware of the value of their relationships and the networks you're part of. Our networks are our most valuable resource. They are the way our lives express themselves. Those networks are made up of all the people you care about, the people you inspire, move, and help to live their best lives. This isn't to absolve us of your responsibility for our actions and to shift the blame to others. Rather, it's to underline the fact that we are powerfully constrained by a network context. So, the smartest use of energy for those of us looking to make a change can often be to carefully reassess the networks we are part of and find ways to join the new ones that are better suited to the life path we want to be on. On the flip side, if life is going well and you are happy, understand how important networks are, double down on your relationships, cherish the people in your life, and be aware of the value of their relationships and the networks you're part of. The networks are our most valuable resource. They are the way our lives express themselves. Wow. This was a beautiful read. Our networks are our most valuable resource. They are the way our lives express themselves. Those networks are made up of all the people you care about, the people you inspire, move, and help to live their best lives. James, General Partner, NFX. All right.